So you just got done watching the fights. The kids are asleep. The wife's in the other room doing, well, what wives do.
Am I the only one that does a goddamn thing around here? How hard is it to pick up after a sound?
So decision time. You could either go in the other room and deal with...
After all I've done today, you expect me to wanna...
Or keep it locked right here, because it's time for the Billy C post-fight wrap-up on the BillyCBoxing.com network. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Billy C.
And we're coming to you live from the Billy C Studios in Lake George, New York, and it's time for Billy C's Provodnikov-Matthysse post-fight show. The fight just got over. The official announcement, a majority decision win for Lucas Matthysse. Two of the judges scored it, 115-113. One had it the way I had it, a draw, 114-114. My man Brad from Jacksonville asked me what I thought the fight would. I told him it would end in a draw, and it almost did. Action-packed fight, loved it. The Terrence Crawford fight, loved that. I do not want to hear about the Chavez fight. I have not watched it yet, so I will watch that as soon as this show is over. But the phone line is open. What's your thoughts? 845-228-8710. First and foremost, my quick thoughts. Provodnikov seemingly was fighting behind because of that cut that came early on. But you can't ever count this guy out. I mean, he was coming forward. He was landing some hellacious shots that what was it in the 11th round. I don't even think he realized how much he hurt Lucas Matthysse. Matthysse was clearly hurt in that round, and Provodnikov let him off the hook, I think. I think Provodnikov, his problem fighting fighters that have movement, I think Matthysse showed that in the early rounds, but as Matthysse slowed down and was exchanging with Provodnikov was able to do what he had to do to make it close. And like I said, in my opinion, it was a draw. The Terrence Crawford-Thomas Delorme fight, what can I say? Terrence Crawford, he's the man. He's the real deal. We got somebody on the line right now. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
This is Mike from Michigan.
Hey, Mike, what's up, brother? What'd you think?
Man, I'm just so sick of seeing Ruslan lose. And I tell you what, though, if there's anybody who is Arturo Gatti reincarnate, it's got to be Ruslan Provodnikov, because he's the toughest guy I think I've ever seen fight.
Yeah, he's a tough guy, but I mean, he doesn't get away from punches. I mean, if he had a little more defense and protected himself a little better, I think this guy would win the fights. You can never count him out. He had Matthysse rocked in the 11th round. I don't even think he realized it.
Yeah, and you know what? The more I see him, the more limited I think he is. But to be honest, I mean, he's still going to be my favorite fighter just because I love fighters that have that kind of heart. And man, is he tough, man! I don't remember seeing a guy as tough, maybe besides Arturo Gatti, because it was unbelievable. I mean, he took hard, crisp shots the whole fight. Maybe it's not so much in the later round, but I thought that Matthysse pulled it out, to be honest with you. I had to fight 115, 113, so that sucks for me, but whatever.
I mean, listen, it was a close fight. Like I said, I scored it even. I had it even at the end of the fight. I had a 114, 114, but I think that Matthysse, actually Ruslan, I thought landed the harder punches, I thought, throughout the fight. But, when you look at the winner of the Terrence Crawford-Thomas Delorme fight, and obviously they were setting up that winner to fight the winner of the Ruslan Provodnikov and Lucas Matthysse fight, I think that the movement would have given Provodnikov and will give Matthysse some trouble. What's your quick thoughts?
Yeah, I think Crawford's going to be the man at 140. That's really about it. I mean, if Garcia were to, I know he's not going to stay, but if he were to stay, I got Crawford over Garcia. I got Crawford over all these guys. Judging on knocking out Delorme and Gamboa and everything else, Crawford's the real deal.
The other thing too is he's so big. Delorme, I thought, was such a big guy height wise. But when you look at Matthysse and Provodnikov, the guys in the same division, and I think Crawford's got 2.5, 3 inches on Matthysse, so ought to be an interesting fight. What do you think about Ruslan Provodnikov talking about that he's thinking of retirement? Do you think it showed tonight, or do you just think that it was just talk?
I don't know. He says a lot of kind of half goofy things, you know. To be honest with you, he does say a lot of stuff that's all over the place. I don't know. All I know is that I don't know a whole lot of boxing people anymore, but I don't know anybody as far as any of you guys from Billy C that would miss one of his fights, that's for sure. So I don't think he's going to retire because I think there's money to be made, and he's an Arturo Gotti type guy. I mean, I love to see this guy fight. I will always make sure my calendar's clear the night he fights because he's that much of a warrior to me. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah,
I don't know, but I hope he doesn't though because I love watching him fight.
One last question I got for you that's going through my mind, and it's not just with Provodnikov. It's with any fighter with the same situation, and we see it a lot today. You have a guy that doesn't speak English. You have him with a trainer that speaks another language or broken English. So there's an interpreter in the corner. What's your thoughts on that when you're trying, when you have a fighter that's trying to get instructions from the trainer that's going through an interpreter?
You know what? I don't know. I never thought. I know you're big on having the same language spoken in the entire corner, right? I remember you said that before. But I mean, and I'm not a boxing guy, like I don't know any inside stuff, but I would think that if you work together for someone for months and months and months, you guys know, what's going on. You should be able to pick up on each other's, what you're trying to convey to your fighter, okay? But, that being said, I didn't see Provodnikov doing anything that Samodio was telling him. I didn't see him working behind a jab. I didn't see him let his hands go, and maybe he's just incapable of doing that stuff because it seems like he always comes up short, and if you would just tweak a couple things, it seems like he would come out, on the winning end of every single fight he's ever lost, to be honest with you. If he just won one extra round in every single of the fights he's lost, he gets a draw or he wins, So I don't know about that, really. I really don't know.
Well, overall, I think he takes too many punches, and I think that if he had, and you're right, he would. But then again, I've never seen him really work behind a jab, and he didn't seem to be listening to his corner. But I think that this guy is, like you said, he's a warrior. He comes forward, he throws punches, and he hopes that he throws the harder punches at the end of the night because he doesn't think about avoiding any. And I think that that's his downfall.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I'm a little irritated that Roach wasn't in his corner. I didn't think it'd be that big of a deal, but you would think with it's a pretty big fight, and I know he's training Pacquiao and everything. But if you're someone's trainer, wouldn't you feel obligated to be there on fight night?
These trainers that have multiple fighters, I mean, they have a priority fighter, and they tell the other fighters that going in, so you can't use that as an excuse, but I hear what you're saying.
All right.
All right, Mike.
Billy, that's all.
I'll talk to you soon, brother.
All right, bye.
That's my man, Mike. You can catch him generally in the chat room during our normal weekly show. If you're just passing through, checking out this post-fight show, don't forget we do a daily 2-hour boxing talk show right here on BillyCBoxing.com. Also check your local radio dial for shows. We're on many stations throughout the U.S. and Canada, and, of course, up on YouTube. I'm Billy C., and we're talking about the Provodnikov-Matthysse fight, or I guess we should start referring to it as the Matthysse-Provodnikov fight. Just got over, in case you missed it. What a battle it was from start to finish. It did go the distance, and Lucas Matthysse won a majority decision to possibly move ahead now and challenge Terrence Crawford for his new belt. He picked up the WBO junior welterweight title earlier this evening. with a stoppage over Thomas Delorme. He stopped Delorme at 1 minute and 51 seconds of the sixth round. Delorme was down not once, not twice, but three times before the referee, Rafael Ramos, put an end to that one. Joining us right now is Dax Khan. What's up, brother?
Hey, what's going on?
What's your thoughts?
Great fight, huh?
I thought so. I thought that Provodnikov was in it. I scored it a draw, but I think it was a close fight. Like for an example, Harold Lederman gave Ruslan, I think, round 3. I didn't, but I gave him round 4, or maybe he gave him round 3 and 4, and I gave him rounds 4 and 5. So I thought it was a close fight.
I thought that Matthysee learned from some past mistakes, which is good. He learned a lot from the Molina fight. I did notice that every time, his back touched the ropes, even though, a few times he was driven back, a few times it was that, he was moving and, he went back into the ropes on his own, but the second that he felt them on his ropes, he came off. There was a couple times that Provodnikov had him on the ropes and, he did some work, but, as it seemed as though Ruslan was really able to start getting his best work in there, Matthysee was smart and he held, and he came off, he pushed Ruslan forward and came off there. So that shows, a lot there. But on the other hand, too, Matthysee, what I noticed in this fight, and I've noticed in past fights, is that he's not a guy that can stand there and really go to war for as hard as he hits. He's not somebody that's going to stand there and trade. I don't think his chin is really that good, and he's not. He's a sound fighter, but he's not technically spectacular. If Ruslan would have gotten off a little bit earlier, I think it would have been a whole different outcome. So, it's a good win for Matthysee. And, Ruslan, unfortunately, as much as we love watching him in action, a guy can't take those many beatings. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
After a while, the amount of punches that he takes, that's the type of thing that, 5, 6, 7 years after you retire, all of a sudden, shows up. One day you're sitting there eating your breakfast and you notice that your spoon is shaking while you're eating your cereal. It might be a good idea for him to contemplate retirement.
Yeah. I agree. And his style, I said that last week during the show. I said, his career, he's given us a lot for this, because he's definitely going to pay the price. What's your thoughts of the real quick on the corner of Matthysee? According to at least the broadcast team, that he was way ahead and kind of took his foot off the gas. I mean, that's one of the biggest mistakes a corner can make.
Yes, absolutely it is, because, just looking at those scorecards right there, the fact that it was a majority decision for him, tells you right there that that was a bad idea. Perfect example, if you want to go to high-profile fights, Oscar De La Hoya and Felix Trinidad. They thought Oscar was so far ahead that, Oscar took his foot off the gas those last couple rounds, and he lost. And as much as I know the Floyd Mayweather fans are going to hate it, Oscar De La Hoya made that mistake in that fight. He kind of stopped jabbing, and that was what pretty much gave Floyd the opportunity late. When you sit there and tell a fighter, you're way ahead on points, what you're basically, saying to your guy is, move around, run, don't, and I do believe at one point in time they said, do not put yourself, or don't take risks, something to that effect if you don't have to. We never know what the judges are what the judges are thinking, what the judges are saying. We've seen fights where guys have dominated and they have ended up getting robbed. So you never know what's going through the judges, and that's where the old adage comes in, don't leave it in the judge's hands. So that's a very poor choice of words by the corner. Why they said that, I don't know. A better choice of words should have been, you're doing good, box intelligently, don't do anything to get yourself caught. That's what they should have been telling him.
What's your thoughts on Terence Crawford's win?
Terence Crawford, I've said it for years. A lot of people said it for years. We've talked about it on the show. That was a very impressive win. Thomas Delorme, I think, Terence Crawford was the favorite in that, but Thomas Delorme is very dangerous early on. And, when you get a guy who's that dangerous early on, you can't rush in there, you can't take any chances, and Terence Crawford didn't. I was on our Twitter account, and, I had sent out a tweet on there. I think it was after it might have been after the 5th round, when I said in there, Crawford's corner, and Crawford seemed very relaxed, and I made some sort of reference to, how he seems like a fighter more advanced than somebody his age with only 25 fights. You would think that, he's a Hall of Famer already, the way he was so composed. Nothing was bothering him. He looked for the perfect opportunity to go in there and take Delorme out. He probably could have took Delorme out sooner than what he did. But, he wasn't rushing. He wasn't taking any chances because Delorme can punch. And he did exactly what he was supposed to do. He was composed. And the fact that it was his first 140-pound fight, most guys would have took a softer opponent than Thomas Delorme, who, like you said just not too long ago, is a big guy. But Terence Crawford, he hit that on the head too. Terence Crawford looked like the big, he's a tall, lanky guy in there who, if he had a little bit more pop on him, he's kind of, got that Thomas Hearns build to him, and that Thomas Hearns style without that bazooka right hand.
Well, I think Crawford, first of all, it was a title fight, so he had to fight somebody, upper echelon. So I don't think he had a choice to take an easier fight in this particular one. And I think he's got more power than people think. I think he's very accurate. I think, just like you said, he's smart in the ring. He seemingly knew what was going on from start to finish. And as soon as he had Delorme in trouble, I don't know if I've seen a young fighter, with 25 pro fights under his belt, now 26, that is such a proficient finisher. I mean, he does a great job.
Absolutely, and that's my point. Considering the fact that this was his first fight at junior welterweight, he could have taken an easier opponent, somebody to where he could have, seen how. How can I, how do I deal with the power of a 140-pound fighter? Because there's a big difference between getting hit by, a 140-pound fighter who on fight night might weigh, in the 150s, than there is getting hit by, a lightweight. Now, Crawford, all things considered, yes, he's fought upper echelon guys, but when you look at his career, Bill, he's only been fighting world title fights for a little over a year. I think he won his first world title from Ricky Burns in March of last year. So, this is a guy now, in just, a little over 12 months, won his second division title. He hasn't, I don't think he's lost more than 2 or 3 rounds since the Ricky Burns fight, which, was not, it was closer on the scorecards than the actual fight was. So, and Terence Crawford is getting better every time out there. And this is a kid that, he's just going to keep getting better and better and better. And by the time he's 30 years old, this is a kid here that is going to truly be a superstar of the sport, not only because of what he does in the ring, not only because he's a student of the game and he's so well-rounded, but because of the fact that he's a very likable guy, too. He's a good image for the sport. I like Terence Crawford, and I really don't think that Terence Crawford is going to stay around at 140 pounds for too long. I think he's going to outgrow that division fairly quick, and I really don't see any of the title fighters there, any of the other champions there, going near him. And I certainly don't think that there's any possible way that the guy who's supposed to be the number one man in the division, Danny Garcia, goes anywhere near him, considering Garcia's last 3 fights.
No, I don't think anybody at 140 stands a chance against Crawford, and I think that might be his weight. He is a little older, but we'll see. Remember, going from 135 to 140 is not a big deal, but then that next jump up, and that's credit I give Delorme, fighting normally at 147, he was able to make weight, actually weighed less than Crawford, and both of these guys weighed over 151 tonight, so A couple of big guys that were fighting in a much smaller division, so it'll be interesting to see the next fight. But Dax, I appreciate your thoughts, my man.
Yeah, absolutely. Great night of fights all around. So just real quick, just think about this. Until the end of June, there is not a single weekend, and I'm talking bar the Pacquiao-Mayweather card. There's not a single weekend where there is not top action in this sport. This is a great time to be a boxing fan right now. I'm telling you, boxing is truly back in a big way, and just this 2 months that are coming up, Bill, proves it. It really is back in a big, big way. We're getting them on free TV. We're getting them on HBO. We're getting them on Showtime. So this is just amazing. I love it. I couldn't be any more ecstatic if I was a kid and this was Christmas Day and I got everything on my list.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, my man. We'll talk to you soon, brother.
Have a good night, everyone.
That's Dax Khan. You can check out his column up on BillyCBoxing.com. You're listening or watching the Billy C. Provodnikov-Matthysse post-fight show. The fight just ended. In case you missed it, it was a great battle from start to finish. Lucas Matthysee squeaked out a majority decision win. One judge scored it the way I saw it, 114-114 as a draw. And Harold Letterman had it as 114-114 as well. But the other two judges scored it 115-113 in favor of Lucas Matthysee. He gets the W. He improves to 37 wins, 3 losses, and 34 of his wins coming by knockout. Ruslan Provodnikov came up short again. He's 24-4 right now with 17 knockouts. The phone line is open, 845-228-8710. What's your thoughts on the Matthysse-Provodnikov fight? Earlier, Terence Crawford and Thomas Delorme fought a fight that seemingly was competitive until the end came at 1 minute and 51 seconds of the 6th round when Terence Crawford ended the night for Thomas Delorme, dropping him down 3 times before the referee waved it off after he was down for that 3rd time. The prior round, in round 5, looked like things were going to heat up. They were smiling at each other, and it seemed like that kind of got under the skin of Delorme, and he came out pretty strong in the 6th round. But then Terence Crawford landed that shot that rocked Thomas Delorme, and he just never could regain. I think we need to recognize the talent of Terence Crawford, like Dax just said a few moments ago. We've here on this show have been talking about him for a while, but I think he showed us tonight that he's the real deal. Even though we thought this before, I really believe he's the real deal. And I learned something else about him tonight. One thing I've always said, that he's willing to exchange. He's an elusive fighter. He's hard to hit. He's got fast hands. He's accurate. All those things. He's willing to exchange with fighters. He's willing to stand in the pocket, which makes him exciting. But I think what I learned from him tonight is that he's a really good finisher. We've seen him stop opponents before, but not as technically sound as he did to Thomas Delorme. I think Max Kellerman used the word precision. And I think that that was a really good description of Terence Crawford, because when he was throwing his punches and landing his punches, they were precision punches. They were landing in specific spots where he wanted them to go, and they did some damage on Delorme, broke him down the way they wanted. So he improves, Terence Crawford, that is, improves to 26-0 now with 18 knockouts. So it looks like we may see the matchup between Terence Crawford and Lucas Matthysse. And to be honest with you, if that fight does materialize, I really like, I hate to say it because Matthysse looks so good over Provodnikov, or at least at times during Provodnikov's fight. But I think Terence Crawford wins that fight. I really do. Any final thoughts on this? On the Provodnikov-Matthysse fight or the Crawford-Delorme fight, give us a call, 845-228-8710. If not, hey, It is what it is, right? Hey, if you're listening to this show right now, don't forget about our daily Talking Boxing with Billy C show. It's 2 hours a day. You could catch it on the radio, on TV, on YouTube, or right here on BillyCBoxing.com. Now, speaking of the Talking Boxing with Billy C show, unfortunately, we will not be live for the next 2 weeks, actually. Our next event is going to be the Pacquiao-Mayweather Fight Night special we're doing in St. Simon's Island. I hope you guys could be part of that. You could drop me an email, billy@talkinboxing, TALKINBOXING.com, if you're looking to get access to that. It's a private affair. It's going to be a great time for everyone that's going to be there. So we will be back on Tuesday, May 5th, live. But this is a good chance for you to go back and watch all our shows. There's a lot of them up on YouTube, on youtube.com/talkinboxing. That's TALKINBOXING. Or if you're a premium podcast subscriber, you have access to all of our stuff. And speaking of the premium podcast subscribers, you will be getting shows from us over the next 2 weeks while we're on site. And one of the other things we're going to be doing is a new pilot. We're doing a pilot film for another show, and it's actually a kind of boxing twist with a fishing rod in my hand. That ought to be interesting. I'm looking forward to that. Looks like we got one more caller before we pack it in. My man, Alex Perelli. What'd you think, brother?
Hey, Billy C. Yeah, the only one I saw actually was the Matthysee Provodnikov fight. I only came in a little late and caught the highlight of Crawford, so I didn't get to enjoy the performance they were describing about him. But
well, when you go back and watch it, you're going to love it. I mean, this guy is clearly the future of the division. But let's give Matthysee Provodnikov their due. What an exciting fight that was! No question about it.
Matthysee shocked me. I was surprised that he shocked me at first at how easily he was handling Provodnikov early. I mean, he just jumped all over him and was hammering him. And then Provodnikov shocked me. I don't think I can remember a guy who took such a beating. I mean, 6th, 7th round, it looked like they were going to stop it, and were completely justified in thinking about stopping it, because he was just taking a complete, just a blasting to the head. And I think that if that is what the corner said, and you always got to wonder because they're translating it, and I've heard a lot of people say that some of the HBO's translators are not that great. So you wonder what they were able to translate. But yeah, if they were saying, you got this fight won, which it sure sounds like they were, he did seem to relent, and he did. I didn't think it was as close as they saw it, but he definitely let him back in the fight because he relented a bit.
It's funny. So you didn't think it was as close. See, now, when I was watching the fight, and I scored it, and I actually scored it a draw, 114. And it did seem in the early rounds that Matthysee was controlling them, but then as I'm scoring him, I'm looking at some of the hellacious shots that Provodnikov was actually landing, even during the beginning part of the fight where Matthysee seemingly was in control with his superior boxing ability, which we had talked about on the show, that he clearly had that. He kind of took his foot off the gas. I think he did let Provodnikov back in the fight, and I think the judges saw what I saw. You at some point in time, you land a vicious shot. It's got to be worth more than a couple of just going through the motion jabs, and I think that's why the scores were so close.
Yeah, I think definitely you're right that in the second half of the fight, he definitely won some of those rounds just with bursts of punches that were really hard punches. Lampley was saying how he might have won that round in the last 30 seconds. I think it was the 8th or the 9th, where he did have a series of big shots that he scored. And Matthysee even looked like he was going back to his corner with a little bit of a smirk on his face. And almost, I don't know, it was a little cocky kind of smile. But at the same time, that was probably a round he gave away because he didn't keep his foot on the gas.
What about the round, I think it was the 11th, where Provodnikov rocked Matthysse and I don't think he realized it. I think he lost a valuable second or two by not going after him. It seemed like Matthysse, his legs clearly buckled in that round. Did you catch that?
Yeah, there was a moment where it did look like where he might have been hurt, and Provodnikov he didn't seem to notice it. I do want to go back and watch that and see, because you're right, it looked as if his knees gave out for a second, and I wonder if it was a balance thing or if it was a punch, because it happened fast. And Provodnikov, he did not go after him, but it did look as if, for a second there, he might have been stunned. Yeah, I think it was the 11th.
Yeah, it looked like that to me. I love Provodnikov, and I know my man Mike, who called in earlier, he loves the guy, and he's exciting to watch. But, at the end of the day, he just takes too many punches. He's offense. There's no defense there. A guy like that doesn't protect himself. Really, he doesn't. He doesn't protect himself at all. If you throw a punch, chances are you're going to land it on this guy. The problem is it just doesn't seem to slow him down enough for you to beat him. But I think it's starting to take its toll. Not that it looked that way tonight, but I just think that it is. And I think we're going to start to see a different Provodnikov.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of it has to do with the partner that he has, because he was able to make the fight even closer to the point where people thought he won against Tim Bradley, who's throws a lot of punches, but he doesn't throw hard punches. So if Provodnikov's in there against a guy who can really hammer him, like Matthysee, you could see his face was all falling apart. He was swelling. He's bleeding all over the place. Against big punchers, he can't sort of close the gap because of the, he is sort of limited. But against boxers, he could probably, do pretty well against the right dance opponent, against the right dance partner. And I do think that was a major part of what happened, was that Matthysee is more skilled, and that gap in skill, Provodnikov never was able to land enough punches in a row to draw Matthysee into a brawl that would have favored him. And you're right, it ended up being Matthyssee's own mistake that almost cost him the fight, because he kind of let him back into the fight. But it does make you wonder, well, where does Provodnikov go unless there's a guy who's a boxer that matches up well with him? If it's a guy with a combination of hard punching and speedy guys, Danny Garcia, I think he hasn't looked good in a while, but I think Danny Garcia could easily do what we just saw to Provodnikov too. So, I don't know. I don't think he's going to make it to the top.
It's funny you say that. A boxer like Chris Algieri frustrated the hell out of him, and I think that's how you beat him. Matthysse was seemingly in control when he was using his boxing ability, and then made the fight close when he got suckered into Provodnikov's fight. As much as I like Danny Garcia, and I hate to, it seems like I'm been picking on this guy the last few weeks, but I think that Danny, although he's weak against guys with movement, I think a relentless guy like Provodnikov would give Danny Garcia all kinds of trouble. I could see Provodnikov stopping Danny Garcia at late in the fight. I really could.
I think that's what could very well be, his undoing, because, I'd love to see that fight, but because you're right, that's probably would be the bigger factor, is the fact that Garcia does fade. If he wasn't able to get a TKO just on cuts, and again, even tonight, I'm surprised Matthysse didn't get that. If you can't get him early, Provodnikov is obviously, he's like Godzilla in that sense. You could keep shelling him all night. if you don't kill him, he's gonna be there till the end.
Yeah, no, he's too much. I had asked one of the callers earlier about the corner and what his thoughts were about the corner. You know, when you see a guy that's not speaking, there's 3 different languages being spoken in the corner. You know, I can't help but think that that's a problem. You know, I know they go through it in training and everything else, but in the heat of the moment and the way sometimes translation and, you know, I always, you know, when buddies of mine that speak Spanish and I try to speak Spanish, they laugh at me because I'm always speaking Spanish the way it's presented, a sentence in English, and it's reverse in Spanish. They do things backwards, and you know, or we do things backwards, however you want to look at it. So you got to assume that the same is true with whatever languages they're all speaking in those corners, you know. And I just can't see it being effective. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I see what you mean. I mean, you would think that you'd want to have the most thing that everybody could speak the most fluently, and that there's no confusion as to what people are saying. But I think what Mike was saying earlier, I think, is a good point. Is that these guys probably, you know, work together like that all the time, so they're probably used to it to some degree. And I think the thing that's weird is that I think sometimes in boxing, a lot of times what we're seeing is people aren't listening to each other anyway.
Right.
I think a lot of that, because guys go into autopilot. And, I mean, I was at the Foxwoods fights last night, and I was struck at one point where Johnny Callis took one of the fighters to the corner to get his mouthpiece put back in. And he told to the corner, he said, no coaching, no coaching. And part of me was like, does it, you know, is those really 3 words really going to change the course of the fight? But, you know, I mean, I think sometimes maybe they do, sometimes they don't. And you would think that if everybody at least is speaking the same language, maybe they'll have more effectively, they'll be more effective in the instant.
Well, you know, the funny thing is in any language, I've always hear, you know, they could be speaking any language, and what the word that always emerges is jab, 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 jab. You know, jab is the same word, no matter in what language, right? And you know, they're telling Ruslan jab, 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 and I'm saying to myself, does he ever set up punches with a jab? I can't remember when he does. You know, I mean, very rarely. Yeah, he kind of goes in there a little bit, going through the motions, but he's a home run hitter. There's no question about that.
Yeah, and I really think that part of the problem tonight was that he got put in a very deep hole. He's the kind of guy who does, you know, starts slow and battles back, even if he absorbs a lot of punishment. But he absorbed, I think, a little too much to make it. It could have been closer if maybe Matthysse hadn't been quite as prepared. But I think that's how Matthysse, he came into this thinking, I've got a formidable opponent, and I'm going to jump right on him. Yeah. And I think those first 2 rounds really did have a major effect on how the rest of the fight played out, because I think even though Provodnikov did fight his way back into it, there was only so much he could, because he had been significantly diminished from just that first 6 minutes.
Well, it was the cut was pretty bad. You got to give the corner credit for keeping it under control. It was a deep gash. I mean, you know, now with the high definition close up shots, I mean, you're gagging now. You know, I thought Sylvester Stallone sewing up his own arm and Rambo was vicious. That's got nothing over boxing these days. But you know, between that and the swelling and you know, I think that he was battling that, but you know, that stuff that he battles, you know, I think Jog gets cut and stuff. I mean, I don't know, but he's a tough guy and a warrior, you know, and he appreciates fighters that stand and do it with him, you know, and I think you could see that with both of those guys. They respected each other. It's going to be interesting to see if the hype with you know, Crawford emerging as the winner. They were setting us up for the fight between the winner of Provodnikov-Matthysse going up against the winner of Delorme Crawford, and I see I see Crawford just being too slick for Matthysse as much as Matthysse looked good tonight.
Yeah, see, I'm going to have to check out Crawford, see that whole fight, but you're right. I mean, I thought, I think in general, I mean, if you asked me yesterday, I would think Crawford would have too many skills for Matthysse. However, the Matthysse that I saw in the first 4 rounds tonight, he is one of the best fighters in the world, and that was impressive. That's the machine. When they talk about Lucas the Machine Matthysse, that's him. I mean, that was impressive. But he wasn't able to maintain it. So, yeah, against a guy like Crawford, he's going to have to maintain it.
Yeah, but maybe that's because some of the comments from his corner. Oh, you're way ahead. Oh, you're coasting. You know what I mean. I mean, if you're hearing that, you have a tendency to maybe take your foot off the gas. I mean, he clearly wasn't taking his foot off the gas in the beginning, first half a dozen rounds. So yeah, you got to put some of the blame on the corner for that.
It could be, and the other thing is the freakish constitution of Ruslan Provodnikov. I mean, that really became a factor, and that's what's so great about this sport. It's so rich in the sense that there's so many things that could become the story, and that's one of the things. And even Matthysse at the end, Lampley asked him, is this one of the toughest guys you ever fought? And he said, oh yeah. He said, I hurt my hand hitting him. So these guys. And at the same time, when he asked Provodnikov, is this the hardest you've ever been hit? He said, oh yeah, definitely. So in that sense, it was sort of undiscovered country for both of them, and I think that's pretty cool. To me, it wasn't the fight of the year that people kept talking about so much, which I really think HBO was sort of shooting themselves in the foot, kept mentioning this is going to be the fight of the year, but it certainly was a hell of an action fight.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's got to have the early lead. I mean, what was better than... So far, I mean, as far as action, I mean, I can't, maybe they're all running together, but I can't think of a better fight so far. I mean, I'm hoping that we get better ones as the year turns out, but I thought
Salido-Martinez last week was a really good fight, and I was shocked that went the distance.
Yes, no, you're right. The Rocky Martinez, Orlando Salido was... Yeah. Yes. So but Rocky Martinez, all his fights are like that. He's. You're right. That was a good one. I'm trying to think what other ones we've had. We've had some close fights that weren't supposed to be close. But you're right. Nothing was billed as potential fight of the year. But I think it lived up to the expectations. I wasn't disappointed in the fight.
No, I don't think so either. And one of the things that was awesome to see was how crowded the place was. The place was it was a sellout, and that's awesome to see that. And what's unfortunate is that because in that last round I saw of the Crawford fight is how empty that place was.
That was
and
one.
It's a shame because in the sense that because I'm sure it's weird. Boxing is the way it is because there's people there are enough fans, but they're just not all in the same place.
well, here's the thing. In Texas, you got to have the Hispanic fighters, specifically the Mexican fighters. They draw the crowds in Texas, right? And you're right. There were some shots that made that arena look empty, but then there were other shots that made it look full. It was weird where they had the seating, but there was no doubt that Turning Stone was packed. I mean, that was, that was a no doubt there. But, yeah, you're right. There's a lot of fans. Too bad they all didn't go to the same fights all the time,
Yeah, it's amazing. We're really, like Dax was saying, we're really enjoying this time that, there's this focus on boxing. I mean, there was 2 shows last night. There's a solo boxeo show going on right now. The Showtime show, I think, is still going on. At least my TiVo's still recording. I see the red dots on. There's 2 shows at the same time in Connecticut last night. The one I was at was empty. Was mostly empty, at least. But it's like people are still trying to figure out, how to get this boxing thing to catch on. And one of the things I think that when I was first starting to be a fan was, 85, 87, 88, there were still fights then I think what we saw tonight on HBO, both those fights would have been in a parking lot at Caesars, and the Crawford-Delorme fight would have been first, and then Matthysse-Provodnikov in the main event, and maybe it would have been pay-per-view, but it would have been packed.
That's what we need. We need those kinds of fights because it keeps people into it. No, even if you're not the biggest boxing fan, you watch that and you're going to enjoy it. I think what happened over the last 10 years is a lot of BS, a lot of non-fights that should have happened, a lot of terrible decisions, a lot of running, a lot of people trying to convince me sweet science is taking over. But at the end of the day, people pay the money to see what we saw tonight, and that's the bottom line. That's what it's about,
That's right. If you make the fights, they will come.
That's right. If you make the good fights, they will come. There's no doubt about that. Well, I appreciate your thoughts on this, and we'll be looking forward. Well, we won't be back until after the big fight. So any final thoughts on that? We didn't get a chance. I had some stuff come up that prevented me from doing the shows. But any final thoughts on the Pacquiao-Mayweather fight coming up?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I hope it's going to be at least live up to half the expectations. I think I am still leaning towards Manny to win a close, controversial decision. I think that as much as, to me the big questions, there's two big questions. One, is Mayweather, how old are those knees? And is he able to keep the distance he likes to be comfortable off a pressuring, swarming, aggressive guy like Manny Pacquiao at this age? And the other question is, we really still haven't seen Manny get nailed on that chin by a guy who can time him the way Marquez did. Floyd can. The thing that Floyd doesn't have is he's only got 36 minutes to time him. Look at Marquez. It took him 3 fights to figure him out.
Good point.
So, I don't know. I think it's going to be a close fight, and I think just the volume of punches that Manny throws, if he can do that, if he can make sure that the fight's his kind of fight, and not that sort of nasty economy of punches where Mayweather keeps the punches output low. If it's a Mayweather fight, then yeah, it's bad for Manny. Manny's got to keep pressing him, and I think he's able to do that, and I think it's going to be keep it close enough that, there are going to be people upset, but maybe we'll see a rematch, and it'll be a justifiable rematch.
I think Floyd actually, I never believe anything Floyd says. I never do, but I'm kind of believing that he is going to bring it to Manny for some reason. It's been a change of thought over just the last few days, and I just have this feeling that I think Floyd has mentally prepared himself. This is it. I got to give it my all. I'll let the chips fall as they will. I'm a talented guy. I have speed. I'm bigger. I'm stronger. I'm going to exchange with him, and I think that. I really, it is as much as I think that he's, obviously skilled and quality defense and everything, I think his best chance is fighting Manny's fight. I know that sounds ridiculous, but I think that Floyd's best chance is to stand there and catch Manny, because I do think he could stop Manny. I think if Manny's chasing him around the ring, nailing him every so often, you're right. Manny's going to win a close decision, So it's going to be interesting to see what Floyd is thinking on fight night. If he's going to do his thing or if he's going to try and do what we've all been longing for him to do for his whole career.
Yeah, I think, it does seem like he's signaling, as you're suggested, that he's going to slug it out with the chopping wood, and, that to me, that's a puncher. A puncher does that.
That's mental. That's a mental thing. I did this. What did he do?
Yeah, yeah. So maybe it is going to be, And I think you're right that that's exactly, if he slugs with Pacquiao, that could work because Pacquiao, you could catch him with rights, and Mayweather throws a beautiful lead right. So, in a sense, Pacquiao could knock himself out. Just with his forward momentum, Mayweather times him beautifully, bang, on the end of one of those.
And that's,
if his chin is still a little fragile from the Marquez knockout, I mean, think about it. He's been in there with powder puffs in the punching department since the Marquez knockout. That is still a question mark, I think.
well, he did exactly that. He walked right into, at the same time, the Marquez punch. And Floyd is much more accurate than Marquez. He's a pinpoint puncher, and that's I think we're going to be shocked. We're going to be pleasantly surprised. The one thing that's
God. Well, if he does that, though, I mean, Phil, are you really going to be excited if Mayweather knocks out Pacquiao? I mean, if he does that, he does it spectacularly. Okay, I'll be happy, but. Wow, I don't think I'm going to be too excited to see that happen.
Well, all I'm going to say is this: they'll be taking my shoelaces out from my shoes. All right, if that happens. But I tell you, the funny thing, it's not even funny. On the commercials, I'm seeing these commercials. At least the DirecTV's version of the commercial. I can't believe that they're actually showing the Victor Ortiz knockout as like a huge accomplishment from Floyd. To me. That has to be. I don't care how you look at it. That's a blemish. I mean, yes, it was a knockout.
There's an angle that it looks good. I would think even from all the angles, it looks like an ugly thing.
Actually, I got to admit, the angle that I've seen on the commercial it shows nothing of what actually really happened with that. Then
that's why they're using it. Yeah, right.
I know. It just shows like him crumbling down. And it's like Joe Cortez isn't in the shot. There's no hugging and kissing. There's no it was it looked like it was a legitimate knockout. And not exactly what it was. But anyway, we'll be talking a lot about that. Don't forget to call in to our Pacquiao-Mayweather post-fight show, which is going to be a wild and crazy affair, that's for sure, on Fight Night.
Absolutely, yeah. That sounds like you guys are going to have a good time. I'll definitely call in. Yeah, if you guys are taking the phone calls even beforehand, I'll call in from our little party here in Hamden, Connecticut.
Yeah, I will. I will definitely reach out one day the week leading up to it while I'm on site all next week and the week after, and we'll make a plan for that for sure.
All right, sounds good.
All right, brother.
Well, hey, safe travels, Billy C.
Thank you very much. Take care.
All right, bye-bye.
That's my man, Alex Perelli. You can catch him on Wednesdays during the Talking Boxing with Billy C show when Alex and I do a segment called The Blast from the Past, which is making the records and lives of fighters from yesteryear live on. And if you're new to this show, check out our website, www.billycboxing.com. And there's a section called Blast from the Past where you can check out those shows. We do it once a week, and we do it about all the fighters of yesteryear. And we just did a Toro Gotti, so we don't go all the way back all the time, although we do go back all the way a lot of the time. Anyway, listen, man, I appreciate you guys joining me for the Provodnikov-Matthysse post-fight show. Again, programming note, we will not be doing live Talking Boxing with Billy C shows until Tuesday, May 5th, when we come back after the Pacquiao fight. But for all the premium podcast subscribers, definitely check out your podcast because we will be doing them. And we are going to be doing some other specials, so keep your eyes peeled on the production company side of the Talking Boxing with Billy C show on LDL TV. So if we do anything during the week, we are going to try to plan a round table of sorts and stuff. So keep your eyes peeled for the next 2 weeks. But definitely don't miss the Pacquiao-Mayweather fight. We got the Klitschko fight coming up. A lot of stuff, like Dax said earlier, is coming our way. Well, until next time, I appreciate you joining us. And until next time, all I could say is this. Ciao, baby.